Support WrestleTalk!
So Chris Jericho has had an interesting suggestion for NXT because he said it's kind of embarrassing at this point, NXT continually going up against AEW on Wednesday nights. Hello, we are watching the WrestleTalk podcast. I'm El Fakador Laurie Blake. I'm joined by Adam Blompier, and we're going to be reviewing NXT in just a bit, but I thought it'd be interesting to talk about this interview that Chris Jericho did with Inside the Ropes and Alex McCarthy, where they chatted a bit about AEW and stuff, and Jericho actually posed a question to Alex saying, why is NXT on a Wednesday night? And Alex said that it was obviously to oppose Dynamite. Jericho followed up saying, exactly, they came on Wednesday just to mess with us and they should take the head out of their ass and go make money. Don't worry about our company. We're not worried about you. We don't have a screen up that shows what's going on every moment on NXT like they do watching Dynamite. Leave us alone. Go do your own thing. Go to Tuesdays. Grab an extra 250,000 viewers. Finally get your demo where it needs to be because it's pretty embarrassing on a Wednesday night to go up against us. The demo god thing is not a gimmick. It's real. So go to Tuesday, go to Sunday, go to any day you want, but don't exist just to mess with us because we're beating you every week. It's kind of embarrassing for NXT at this point. He doesn't mince his words, Christopher Jericho, does he? And I think, to be fair, he's got a point in, like if NXT has been moved to TV to compete with AEW Dynamite, they have been failing ultimately to beat them week in and week out for a good few months now. They've had a few weeks over the course of their history where they have bested AEW in terms of overall viewership, but never in the right demographics. They have had to pull some pretty big strings to achieve that. I think they've had to have main roster talent appear on NXT to kind of get that bump. They've had to build it around takeover quality matches on NXT TV, and they should be doing that anyway because that's what makes a good TV show. But it was interesting when NXT moved to Tuesdays last week and seeing that bump in viewership because NXT isn't a product that people don't want to watch. I think NXT is a product that people don't have time to watch when AEW is also on at the same time, when there is so much wrestling in a week already to kind of view. Just to keep up with WWE in a week, you have to watch 7 hours of TV. That's a lot of TV to get through in a week. Even if you're the sort of person who binges a load of, you binged all the boys on a Saturday or whatever it was, it's still a lot of TV to watch every week, especially at fixed times. So, moving to NXT to Tuesday just gives everyone breathing room. And we've said before on WrestleTalk that, it would make our lives a lot easier because we can't do this live because AEW is live. And it just doesn't work out really in terms of even just the way that YouTube works, peeling back the curtain. There's an algorithm there that will stop it suggesting videos to you if we put out too many in the space of 24 hours. So we have to stagger our videos to fit them all in, to make sure that people actually get notified, to make sure that people actually watch the videos, because otherwise, what's the point in making videos? Do you think, Adam?
You're right.
I do actually just think it makes sense, and I do. It is almost kind of stubbornness on the part of NXT to continue a war that they're losing in this sense. If it is a war. I do think that, I know it's not a war. It's the equivalent of someone with their hand on your head holding you back and you're swinging your arms and you can't hit them. And that's not to say that NXT is a bad product and not to say that AEW is any better a product. It's just to say that is just where people's viewing habits go. AEW is the fresh new kid on the block, offering you some of the biggest names on the independent scene in wrestling doing their thing every week. And it's not under the WWE banner. WWE's main programming hasn't really generated... It doesn't earn the loyalty that it gets, I don't think, necessarily Raws and SmackDowns, do they? People are still very loyal to watching WWE, but I think a lot of people feel let down on a weekly basis. So they won't really go, well, I'm going to watch the third level of that company's product. I'm already watching Raw and SmackDown, and I think they're absolutely bobbing. So why would I then go and subject myself to some guys who are, as far as we know, still in the developmental brand and therefore still learning the wrestling?
Yes. Gargano and Ciampa
I know,
are doing their best to pick up.
I know, but it's still the sort of semantic look of it, isn't it? I think it still sort of looks that way outside.
And it's when you compare that to the fact that Dynamite is AEW's flagship show, it's just like, well, it doesn't really compare. It would be a lot more convenient for us if they moved, and therefore they should. My initial reaction to it was I find the whole narrative tiresome anyway. WWE versus AEW, just whichever side is speaking, I don't care. But I will say, I was originally going to say that I thought NXT should stay because competition, I think, breeds innovation. Yes, NXT are losing, but WWE was losing to WCW once upon a time. They had to step their pussy up, as RuPaul would say. And my initial thought was just do that, but then again, they programmed really hard on Super Tuesday, so I don't know. I just want to see NXT. And this will dovetail into what we thought of this week's episode. I want to see NXT putting on significant programming. I feel like NXT might be more likely to put on significant programming when they're up against AEW and Dynamite. But they were up against AEW and Dynamite this week, and they didn't put on significant programming. This week's episode was fine, but it was very much an episode about, hey, guess what's going to be great? Next week's episode of NXT. So it's just
when AEW might be doing something.
I do find generally the conversation a bit kind of like, but for us, and I think for generally wrestling fans, it's not that big a war. It's not the Monday Night Wars. It's not worth inconveniencing the viewing habits of people who just want to see good wrestling. Because to be honest, the best two wrestling shows being released on a weekly basis are NXT and Dynamite, and it would be super nice if we didn't have to choose or have to watch one of them on catch up, because both of them both shows knock Raw and SmackDown to a cocked hat. So essentially, it would be nice if we were able to cover the quality wrestling in the most financially lucrative way for the company, i.e. us, i.e. on a platform with Super Chat.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? It's like, the Monday Night War made so much more sense when people didn't have catch-up readily available. When they didn't, when people maybe didn't have a VCR with a record function in order to record one channel while watching another, or any of that stuff that, that these are all mod cons that we live with now. It is now just a bit of a pain to be like, well, I'll sit down and miss the conversation that's happening live on Twitter about NXT because I want to watch AEW and talk about that instead. So you're just asking people to choose for no real reason, and all it is just a bit of a pain, and you're not really winning anything because NXT probably is getting viewing figures. Maybe it's getting viewing figures online similar to its Super Tuesday showing. Maybe that's the quantity of people who might watch NXT on catch up and stuff, but those aren't counted in the kind of overnights that are lauded on Twitter and by wrestling pundits and by the companies themselves. These aren't taken into account. So you're just losing a sort of PR battle for no reason.
Yeah.
So you might. And I know that WWE is not the sort of company to back down. One thing WWE has never really done, back down from a fight. But maybe this is the time to just concede and just go, look, we could just go to Tuesday and have a much bigger audience. And then you build bigger stars to bring to Raw and SmackDown in the future. Like, look how, I think Keith Lee is a very good example of someone who obviously was at the forefront of NXT as it went live on TV and was in some of the bigger, the higher viewed episodes, having these sort of marquee matches as well. So he had that, there's this big benefit of that kind of audience growing around him through that. He's also obviously incredibly clippable and gifable, and that has been done to death on Twitter as well. But then they boosted all of that with Survivor Series and the Royal Rumble and all these other little appearances of Keith Lee. So they managed to build a star there and bring him up to the main roster. And there was some bluster about him. But you could do that with everyone if everyone has seen those people on NXT on a night that's convenient, and they're not instead thinking, oh, Kenny Omega was brilliant last night. Wasn't Pentagon Jr. great? Like, because AEW Dynamite, like you said, that's their flagship show, and it does just make those guys seem that little bit more important to the overall narrative of the company. Instead of NXT, everyone's watching it and just going, I hope they don't go to the main roster and get ruined. Oh, it always feels like a little side project, NXT. There's that little sort of feeling of like, this is my little secret thing that I'm watching, that everyone else talks about Raw and SmackDown, but here I am watching NXT, seeing all the good wrestling, and I'm sort of on the inside track of what's actually hot in the world of wrestling. So maybe a little bit of that magic would be lost if it did move to Tuesday, but I do think they'd get more viewers and probably in the right demographics. And like Chris Jericho said, it's not, the demo god thing. It is a gimmick, obviously, but it's also a gimmick based on truth, as all the sort of best gimmicks are to some degree. They have that sort of wrinkle of actuality to them. And I think, being able to say, like, when I'm on the show, we do better in the demos. I mean, they do better in the demo anyway, but it just does feel like NXT probably should just bow out here. Like, AEW's got Wednesdays wrapped up, and both companies maybe. I don't know. I also think maybe AEW should just think about moving as well, because they
change places.
Yeah, but you know, but both companies are, kind of cutting off their nose to spite their face here. There is a bigger viewership for both of them if they weren't competing over the same one. And ultimately, like, what they're thinking about is a war between themselves of like backwards and forwards of who's going to have the most viewers of wrestling fans tonight. And it's like, what you should be thinking about is where you come in the rankings of TV shows overall, because there's plenty of other stuff on TV that's beating you. And you might sneak a few places up the overall watch list on TV if you just had the full audience of wrestling fans who are going to watch you that night. Like, that's not an issue that Raw necessarily has. I know Raw's viewership was pretty bad this week, but like, previously Raw has been very consistently high in terms of like the overall programming on US TV. And I just think like NXT and AEW could be in that upper echelon if they weren't just fighting over this floating 250,000 people that there are. I just think it's mad.
It's so silly. Like, I don't care about ratings. I'm sure the companies do. I'm sure whoever wins this kind of floating voter, 250,000 people, I'm sure that matters to someone. All that matters to me is the quality of NXT programming. And I just think, how you feel in this issue, just like, how does NXT programming compare now, that now that it's gone up against AEW? For me, when NXT first started on TV, I thought it was brilliant. Like, it was really exciting stuff. But it has got a little bit kind of, not desperate, that's the wrong word, but it's like, it's very transparent what they're trying to do, with the Great American Bash popping up for no reason. With like doing these insanely kind of big grabs, like we're doing a double championship match, to try and program against Fighter Fest. And it's like, it doesn't make the content better. It sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't, because sometimes they have to rush storylines in order to get to build these huge things. Like having to. I only care in so much as I want to watch good TV. NXT was always doing fine booking wise when it didn't have to grab ratings. Like the golden era of NXT on TV is when it was buried on the internet somewhere. Like that is when it booked its best. And maybe if it did just bow out and not worry about having to get to pop that rating every single time, like there's going to be a lot of people that subscribe to that Vince Russo being like, there should always be something amazing happening, should always be something major. So I think both sides are right. It's just like, for me, I think if it just ends the conversation, makes our job takes a bit of the pressure off NXT from constantly having to do kind of quite as nakedly transparent counter programming, because you really do get a bit of a whiff of main roster on that. For me, like it's much of a muchness, and you can agree either way. But for me, yes, I think they should move to Tuesday.
I just think, it's funny that the move to Tuesday would be interesting, because even just from a sort of performance perspective, they could likely coast a little bit more on a Tuesday and be doing better in the ratings. Like, they wouldn't have to be out there doing such intense stuff. I would obviously still love them to be performing at the level they're performing every week and doing these large scale things. But yeah, I think when NXT was hidden on the internet, like you said, it was 1 hour of perfectly plotted, perfectly paced television. And sure, there were little filler matches here and there was just getting somebody over, and there was a bunch of squash time for someone in a sort of 3-week build up to starting their feud. That's all fine. The benefit I saw in going to 2 hours on TV was that, yeah, you could get a longer pay-per-view level match on TV. And they definitely did that for the first little bit. And now they've kind of settled, and it's been a weird year. We can all admit it's been a very weird year. So like, I'm not blaming NXT at all for having certain matches which are just fine, perfectly good matches with not really much build going into them. But yeah, it does feel like a little bit this year has been coasting, and then these huge spikes of like, we need to do something in like 2 weeks time, and they didn't really plan for that, so we're just zooming into that. And then like even the way that takeovers have been built, obviously takeover 30 I think was very well built, but takeover in your house felt very rushed. This next takeover feels pretty rushed, frankly, like, because we had the Great American Bash. We had Super Tuesday, and we've just literally come out of Super Tuesday, and now we're just doing and now the next takeover it's in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something like that. It's very soon, and like, so we're just going to have a bunch of multi-person matches to decide number one contenders. That's not a way to really make me massively invested in this feud that we're going to go into. Like, Finn Balor's just going to go up against one dude who wins this match. Sure, like that's definitely worked in the past. Like Kofi won a gauntlet match, didn't he? Kofi won a gauntlet match to get into the match with Daniel Bryan, but they built that over time. Once he won the gauntlet match, there was a lot of story to be done. So I just think it's a shame that NXT this year has felt like it's just sort of a lot of sort of coasting, and then these huge spikes of like activity where they've had to build something really quickly. And maybe that's just part and parcel of a year in which you don't know what's coming next and what you'll be allowed to do week to week, so they're just having to do it as they go. But you did that on a Tuesday, all that stuff's getting more views, and people probably less, but like, overall you maybe wouldn't have to be doing such big disruptive events like the Great American Bash or Super Tuesday, which, obviously it was great that Super Tuesday kind of was happening because they needed to crown a new champion at short notice. That's fair enough. But Super Tuesday also has disrupted the build to the next takeover, really, when you think about it. So yeah, I guess like if you didn't have to do these bits of again, I'm saying that, but Super Tuesday was on a Tuesday. But like, yeah, if you weren't counter programming to AEW,
they just did that because of they had to because of Karrion Kross. But I think we've spent a lot of time talking about this because there is a huge amount of like stuff to talk about on this week's NXT, and I think that's kind of the interesting thing, really, because this week's NXT is a good wrestling show.
Oh yeah,
good wrestling show. Good matches happen. Shotzi match is good. The main event is good. The tag match is really good. Like, that's the thing, is like, it's not a lot of storyline development, but it's a lot of good wrestling. And I just think like it's a lot less pressure when that doesn't go up against AEW's flagship show, because like if you're forced to choose, right, and you turn into NXT and you see an episode like this, and then you hear about this amazing street fight and blah 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 that's happening in AEW, you might just be just like, oh well, not much has happened this week's NXT, I'll tune into AEW next week, and maybe you won't come back. Whereas if you tune into NXT, if you tuned in to watch this episode of NXT on a Tuesday, you're just like, that was a good solid hour of wrestling. I'll be back next week.
I don't feel like I've wasted my time or missed out on something else. And I think that's the thing, is like, I think the key to it is that ultimately everyone who watches wrestling is a wrestling fan. And whether that's, you're loyal to AEW or WWE, I think people were just a bit tribal about it. And there's no point. You just cheat yourself by not watching the other one, frankly. But yeah, ultimately, I just think it's a situation in which people do just feel like they're missing out. And like you said, that they will transfer across to the other one if they feel like one isn't living up to their expectations, because this is this is a war for I've made the right choices on my viewing habits on a Wednesday night. And that's ultimately, it's the same as, people fighting over whether they're going to buy the new PlayStation or the new Xbox. People just want to make the right choices about things where you can't really go back and make a different choice. So yeah, it would be fine if it was a Tuesday and you were just like, that's great wrestling. I've enjoyed my 2 hours. See you next Tuesday. And then, and then AEW can happen on a Thursday still.
NXT
right. Well,
is pretty much all. Basically, I think I'll give you my final thought on it, which is NXT is pretty much always good. It's pretty much always good. Like I haven't really sat down and watched an episode of NXT and gone, that wasted my time. And sometimes quality-wise, NXT beats AEW. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it's just that I think where Chris Jericho is right in one key respect is that NXT is never, unless they try and do it artificially, NXT is never going to feel like a more important watch than AEW. AEW Dynamite is the only show that AEW puts out weekly. It's the only time where you get to see all of the AEW stars. NXT will never feel as important as that. And when they try to make NXT feel as required viewing as that, it occasionally comes back to bite them or makes it feel like, oh, this is just a bit desperate, or oh, that's a bit like stop counter programming or blah blah blah. NXT's great, and I feel like let's just put it on a separate day so that both shows can just be great. We can stop using the words Wednesday Night War. I'm tired of it.
Yeah. Well, NXT's in that funny position where they're they're part of the much bigger company and yet somehow still the underdog in this scenario. So they've got that there's a really weird dynamic where it feels like they're both punching down and then trying to attack the bigger guy to get a bit of like PR or rep at the same time. It's a really strange dynamic. And I don't think either of those two ways of thinking about it really makes NXT look good in this. Like AEW just seems like they would just try, like they've always seemed, I know they've attacked WWE a little bit in sort of metaphorical circumstances. Cody definitely smashed a throne at one point with a sledgehammer, but like AEW just seems like something that has started and is trying to make a name for itself, and NXT has that cynical air behind it of WWE doing a bit of corporate maneuvering, and maybe just moving it to Tuesday night absolves you of that issue. It's not a defeat. It's just giving the really good wrestlers who perform on NXT the viewership that they probably deserve, because they are busting their asses every week doing amazing matches. And whether or not there is the storyline always to back it up is another thing, but they probably have a little bit more room to tell the storylines without having to constantly be like, here's Charlotte Flair for 4 weeks. Here's Becky Lynch. Here's someone else. Like, we're just going to add stuff in now to make you watch. I just think, I think NXT would have a much better time on a Tuesday. We've got a little announcement before we get on with the rest of the review, don't we, Adam?
Oh, yes.
Would you like to do it?
Yes, all right. So in terms of in terms of counter programming, we're
counter programming ourselves, I think, because how are we going to appear on everything that we've got to do now?
Laurie, do you like board games?
I do like board games.
I also like board games. Laurie, would you like to do a YouTube channel about getting people into board gaming?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I've got time, I think.
We don't
know. Right.
No, we don't. We don't have the time to make this new channel, but it's essentially the reason I'm back on YouTube. Is like that's the kind of like the main. That was the first conversation I really had when talking to WrestleTalk about becoming part of the team. Is this new project, which is Phenomenerds. It's our brand new YouTube channel all about board games. I didn't load a graphic before I entered this chat. Give me 2 seconds and I'll get a graphic.
It's a board games YouTube channel. Imagine what that looks like for a second, because you're going to see a graphic soon that might explain it better.
Look, isn't that a nice graphic? So Phenomenerds is a brand new board game channel launching in October. We're going to have all sorts of stuff. Basically, it's not a channel for board gamers, although people who are fans of board games will get a lot out of it. It's actually a gateway channel to get you into board gaming, because board games are a bit like wrestling. There's a lot of content out there, and it's a little bewildering to know where to start when you first arrive. So we're putting together a whole channel built around explaining the different types of board games out there, giving you like ideas on how to start your collection, like top 10 lists on what are the best examples of every single board game out there, doing deep dives into classic board games, like does Monopoly hold up? Which, you know, it means we're going to be playing Monopoly for the first time in like 20 years.
I don't want to.
You have to, Laurie. You have to.
I'll enjoy it because it's for work.
We're doing like fascinating like bits of history about board games, like how Monopoly boards were used to help prisoners of war escape prisoner camps in World War II. This is an actual thing that happened. So yeah, we're super excited about making this channel. Me, Luke, Laurie, and other faces will be appearing on it over the coming months. It launches first official week of October, so October 5th is when it starts. We're going to put a link to the channel in the description. Please do follow it and subscribe, because I genuinely can't wait. Like the last few weeks of putting all this content together, I've had a spring in my step that I can't quite compare to.
A pep in your pep, and you don't know why.
No, that's the thing. It's like, NXT is great. Wrestling is fine mostly, a bit, sort of, but board games are brilliant no matter the year. So yeah, this is like the thing I want to be most kind of proud of being a part of this channel. So if you're like me, then do me a favor at least and subscribe, because we're going to try and make it the best bloody board gaming channel on YouTube and get everyone into board gaming, which is the best hobby in the world.
Get on board.
Hey, that's the tagline.
Yeah. Right, enough of that nerd shit. Let's talk about NXT. Right, okay. So this week's NXT kicked off with Shotzi Blackheart versus Io Shirai. This all spilled out of the Robert Stone fiasco of last week. The great Robert Stone fiasco.
Bobby Stone losing another member of the brand through no fault of his own. What happened to Chelsea?
She's gone. She just quit. Have you got anything else lined up, Chelsea? No, I just don't like working with you.
Never quit your job until you got another one lined up,
exactly.
Chelsea.
So yeah, I thought this match was bloody brilliant. I really enjoyed Wade Barrett, who is now an official full-time member of the NXT commentary team, just signed a new deal with WWE. He'll be alongside Beth Phoenix and Vic Joseph for now. He's great. At the started the match saying that Shotzi is too far along the weirdo scale for me. I've avoided talking to her backstage. I've introduced myself to everyone else at NXT, but she's too far along the weirdos scale, which I thought was just great.
He's such a dad. It's just like, oh, bloody hell. What Greener. Not in my Greg's. No, sir. Yeah, she's like I've spoken about, like I've watched some Shotzi matches in the past. Like I think there was one she had with Indy Hartwell that was like proper clumsy and stuff. The story of this match, obviously, like the commentators just kept talking about it, was look how surprisingly well Shotzi Blackheart's doing. And yeah, she like that did not feel like a contrived story. She properly held her end up here. Like, so, it wasn't like as crisp a match as we've seen some people have against Io Shirai, but like, damn, it was really, really good. Really pleased for her.
Yeah, Shotzi really felt like she was taking Io to the limit here, and they told that story really well. Like, I think we all kind of assumed that Shotzi wouldn't be walking out with a victory over Io Shirai here unless something drastically sort of unexpected happened. But I do think Shotzi, like Io gave Shotzi enough offense in here to really put over Shotzi as a competitor, and Shotzi just took some brutal moves to build to the finish where you were just like, yeah, of course she's done. She just took a German suplex onto the apron. So yeah, like, which was, I think it was the most remarkable spot in here, because there's a bunch of stuff where they dodged a few moves, and there was a really brilliant bit where Io misses a tiger feint kick, and Shotzi nails her as she comes back into the ring and then hits her own reverse cannonball. And then she hits this sort of like hooks both the arms and goes to hit a German, gets really close to, and then transitions straight out of that into cattle mutilation.
Cattle mutilation!
Yeah,
I
really
wrote that
good.
in all caps. It's like Daniel Bryan must be so happy somewhere.
And do you know what? It's a brilliant move. It looked really, it made it feel really close because the commentary really put over the idea. It's like, how do you get out of this? How do you get out? You're face down with your arms tied behind your back, essentially. What do you do to reverse this move? And Io managed to sort of roll her way out of it eventually. And then she just got Shotzi sort of knocked her down, and she was getting up to do the senton, and Io pops up and hits the big shote. The superplex was kind of blocked, and they ended up dropping onto the apron and having a bit of a fight there. And that's when this big German suplex happened on the apron. And then just to add insult to injury, Io picks up Shotzi, chucks her back in the ring, hits the double knees at, I'm going to say 200% pace, and then just hits the moonsault. And there was a little bit...
With her feet right on her bloody ribs as well.
Oh, yeah. She just shinned her in the ribs, which that's a new one for me. But there was definitely this moment where like Shotzi rolls out from taking the knees and she rolls into sort of position for the moonsault. And I was like, she's rolled too far. And Io looked at her and was like, you've rolled too far. And then Shotzi on the floor was like, I've rolled too far. And Io was like, I'm doing it anyway. And then these knees hit. And then it's all over.
You make your bed,
Oh,
Shotzi.
man. I loved it. I thought this match was so good.
It's like 20 minutes as well. Like
yeah.
20 minutes into the episode we got.
Do you know what? And I think it's a really good choice because I think Shotzi has been such a character on NXT for the last few months, especially in sort of the weird bit of 2020. Like she's really sort of, she is a one-woman audience as well, which is brilliant. Like, and I think she brings atmosphere to TV that doesn't necessarily is a little bit dead without a crowd. Yeah, but I think, and
welcome
she has
to the ball pit.
The ball pit, which I don't understand.
Welcome to the ball pit.
I enjoy it. I like it though.
It's a play area.
It's a soft play area.
I'm hidden in the ball pit.
Welcome to the kids' party.
Welcome to the aqua splash.
Yeah. Also, it's also a ball pit's not where you want to be in the middle of a pandemic, is it? Like they are unsanitary environments. But yeah, I think she stepped up her game here. Like we've said before that some of her matches have been a little clunky, and she's got that air sometimes of I'm waiting for the next spot. But I do think this was pretty fluid from Shotzi, and I think obviously working with someone of the caliber of Io Shirai really, really helped her. But yeah, if you're going to elevate someone, this is the way to do it because, like, obviously NXT, as we've discovered, seems to have a bit of a vacuum of sort of a revolving door of women in the women's division as the main roster just reaches through and goes, oh, is that your new Mercedes Martinez? Can I have a go? Bye. She's
Stop
gone.
Stop taking them.
But yeah.
It's amazing how NXT just continues to have such an amazing, because NXT, this is NXT stock and trade. Yeah, it's not always a match that has amazing storyline implications. It's just a bloody long match where both competitors end up looking stronger no matter who wins and who loses, and it's what NXT's always been good at. And yes, please don't take Shotzi as well. Please let's have a division for a bit.
Yeah, Shotzi is the exact sort of project you want for NXT. Like when Shotzi first debuted in NXT, I was like, that's a future NXT Women's Champion. But I think she's got a long road to get there. And I think that long road is going to make the moment where she wins the belt so much more special because she's good.
You have to Bailey her.
She was such a fan favorite when she came in that first time as well. Like, and I do just think she immediately built a following for herself, and I could really see a slow burn with her building her up to an NXT championship shot. And I think it's quite smart, to be fair, that this wasn't just a title opportunity. This was just a shot at the champ for props rather than even for like the championship. So I hope they play the long game with Shotzi, and I do hope to see her holding the NXT Women's Championship one day and not just in a black hoodie on Raw as a member of Retribution in 2 months' time or whatever it is.
See her strap it to a tank. Just strap the title to her tank.
I want to see her fire the title out of the tank. Shotzi's entrance should be that she comes down on the tank and parks it, and then she gets in the ring, and then the tank fires the belt around her waist.
Welcome to the jungle gym.
So we then got a little package about Tommaso Ciampa beating up Jake Atlas, and this led into a match against Desmond Troy, which Ciampa basically won. One of my notes just says he looks like Eric Young now in his entrance with the mask and the sort of the hood
braids.
up.
He's got braids in his beard now.
That's how you know someone's really lost it.
Yeah, it's a Sheamus syndrome. Yeah, you're just like, oh no, now they're off the deep end.
If you think this looks good, you must be mad. Or a Viking, I guess, is the other thing. Well, the Viking Raiders do that a lot. This was just smashed him to pieces, really. Like Troy went for a wrestling lockup at the beginning, and then they were told to break. Ciampa didn't let the break happen cleanly because he just snuck a knee in, hit a sleeper, ran out of the corner off an Irish whip and nailed him with 2 fists and stomped him in the corner. Then did the sort of the flip thing, the catapult into the bottom of the turnbuckle that he did to Jake Atlas under the ring.
I think it's called.
Yeah, the slingshot, and then hit a Willow's bell, and that was it. And then he goes to get a chair after the match, and you imagine this is going to be another Ciampa level beatdown. But who should come out on the mic? It's Jake Atlas, completely fine after 2 weeks, who says, I could run down and attack you from behind, but I'm not going to do that because I'm not a coward. I want a match next week, and then we're going to get some comeuppance. I was just like, this will be fine. It's going to be Jake Atlas. It's going to be fine, mate. Don't worry
about it, Jake. Yeah,
great idea, Jake. You did so well in the first match. I mean, he did actually do quite well in that first match, but I wouldn't be asking to go back in the tank with a shark, would you? Like that. No, a Burke. Someone who keeps climbing into tanks with sharks was Drake Maverick, who was up next, and he was being asked about Killian Dane, who he's meant to be tagging with this evening against Undisputed Era. He says they're going to work it as a team. He's completely convinced about it, although they haven't spoken. He doesn't have Killian Dane's number, and Killian Dane has hit him in the face multiple times in the past few weeks. It'll be fine, Drake Maverick, ever the optimist says.
Do you have his phone number?
A blissful idiot Drake Maverick says, it'll be fine. I'm sure I can win his friendship by letting him beat me up.
Yeah, it's cute. I like this. I like this friendship. It's cute.
Yeah, I think it's going to turn out really well. Drake Maverick was lost in that keeps running into Legado del Fantasma bit for a while. At least this is a good out for his stupidity, I guess, is that he does actually eventually break down the defenses of the class bully, because
it's a sort of like, if this was happening in front of fans, they'd be eating this up. Like, it's just a sort of like, it's the hug it out kind of, tongue in cheek, like kind of like, love each other, come on, we know you work together and are friends probably in real life, but there's the frick, love each. It's the sort of thing the fans really, really like. And yeah, even without the fans, it's cute. I'm happy that they've got a road ahead for 2 underused, great guys.
And for a division that I think needs a little boost as well, Drake Maverick and Killian Dane could make a brilliant tag team in the tag division here. But more on that in a bit, because that came up later in the show. We then got Finn Balor doing a little promo package saying that, Adam, you're undisputed, but there's only one prince. Back when I was champion 4 years ago, I had to build the brand, carry the brand, be the brand. And he's like,
I'm the brand. You're the brand. What's a brand? He's the brand.
Russell Brand. What? And Finn said here that he doesn't really need to rep the brand anymore. He built the brand. He spent time before fighting to be the champion, and now it's time for other people to fight to face the prince. But you better look both ways before you cross the prince. I imagine next week we're going to get like a little advert with a couple of hedgehogs not looking both ways before they cross the prince, and he's going to run them over.
Probably.
We need a Finn cross code is what we need.
Very good.
Very good.
Is that it? Was that in your notes? Was it?
No, I just made that up just then. Actually,
really?
I'll actually share my notes with you if you want. If you want to double check my workings.
Just copy, delete, cut. Yeah, share them.
Perfect. I haven't been working on that all morning.
Just a huge blackboard covered.
I've done a beautiful minded the whole thing. My windows are covered in Finn puns.
Dumb that. Like it though.
Austin Theory came out next, and he appeared in the ring all day, and he said he's a future first ballot Hall of Famer. He showed that in his losing effort against Bronson Reed, but he basically just offers out an open challenge. Says if anyone wants to come in here and face me, and you can say that you were in the ring with Austin Theory. And Kashida walks down, no music, and just nails him in the head with an enziguri is the first thing that happens.
All business.
That
Bam.
was this Kashida is my favorite Kashida. This is so good. Like, I absolutely adore what they're doing with Kashida right now, because he just Theory gets like a tiny bit of momentum back and misses a standing moonsault, and by the time that he's landed from the moonsault, Kashida has already kicked him in the head. I just think like he is incredibly quick, Kashida, and showed it off perfectly here. Like, all of his flashy stuff still feels like it works for this sort of brutal version of his character. And they sort of brawled to the outside, and the finish came as Theory forearm the post, and they end up back in the ring as Kashida sort of like dropped it onto the floor as well. He stomps him in the face as they roll back into the ring. And then he just locks in this brutal hoverboard lock and then won't let go after the referee rings the bell.
Everyone's a heel.
New Kashida is the best Kashida.
Yeah, very good. Put Austin Theory with Cameron Grimes. Do it. It's just they're brothers, and I love it. Like one's a city mouse and one's a country mouse, but they're both the same obnoxious soul. Put them together immediately. Yeah, all business Kashida is great. It's a lovely kind of new direction for his character. Kashida versus Damian Priest sounds great to me, or even Kashida versus Finn Balor. To be honest, they both sound fine. It really impressive stuff. Like, she's brilliant, and it's, we're edging towards no F's given strong style Kashida, and like that's a good place to be.
Yeah, I think he's like that subtle little turn against Velveteen Dream, and now really leathering people is just completely the right direction for him. He was so not lost. I did like the Marty McFly Kashida has fun with his entrance, is smiling all the time. Like, he's a great little package, but this just feels so much more interesting because he's clearly he can just match people on every level. He's got such a versatile arsenal of moves, of like being a high flyer and a submissions expert, and also just having that speed that other people can't match. I really do feel that Kashida could be something really special if they keep on this track with him. And I'm hoping it's not just going to be like chuck Kashida straight into a title match against Finn Balor or Damian Priest and have him lose, because I think some real magic could come out of this this turn to the more violent side. And I don't want to see it cut off too soon.
Emphasizing how dangerous Kashida is money. Because like, you can put him against anyone and he will have a fighting chance, because he's one of the smartest wrestlers alive. Like, he can break you down. He could destroy like even the biggest heavyweights, because he's such a little savage when it comes to limb work, when it comes to kind of mat strategy and being able to just pop in a submission from out of nowhere. He's amazing. And the more you emphasize that aspect of his character, the bigger a draw he'll be.
Oh. Love it. We then got Candice LeRae cutting a little selfie promo about breaking their freaking TV. I enjoyed obnoxious Johnny just being really just being a massive pain here and saying, I'm going to buy a new TV right now and send Tegan the bill. And then it's going to be the biggest plasma TV that you've got. It's 120 inches. It's going to be like looking into the sun. Meanwhile, Candice is saying that she's going to win the women's battle royal, and Johnny says, like, won't it be nice when we both have gold around our waists? I really like this version of the Gargano like family. I really like the kind of the sort of Stepford couple of wrestling style thing where they've both got the matching, the his and hers blue and pink tracksuits for the wrestling's family. And kind of the pettiness of it just being like, it's clearly this blood feud between her and Tegan happening, and there's all the title stuff, and really it's about like, you broke my TV. I just think, I don't know, there's something in this that I really do enjoy.
I hope they both win next week. I hope they both win and we get that kind of power couple story like going into and basically they're just the next few weeks of NXT just about them as a power couple. They don't have to win at TakeOver. But I want like Gargano Balor 2 and Candice EO 2 would be great. Those are two little anchors for a TakeOver right there.
Yeah, and you've got the added benefit there that they do spill out of other stories that have already been told. There's enough history to build on there that I think long-time watchers of NXT will just accept that these matches are happening and that they're important without having to necessarily artificially generate a feud feel in 2 weeks. We then got the Fashion Police, not Breezango as they were announced. The Fashion Police versus Imperium.
Match of the night. Loved this match. So good.
The pacing, this was a match of two halves, right? This was a very slow build to a hot tag. And as soon as the hot tag happened, all hell broke loose. This was just move after move after move after like double teams, like 4-man combinations, close falls. Like this was so smart. I really liked, I even really liked Imperium's working over a Fandango through. Like they worked him over for the first 5 minutes of the match, through a break, and for quite a while after we came back from the break. And it really did feel like that hot tag that Breeze got to come in was just like so earned at that point. And he and it did really put over the idea that he's going to be the freshest man in the fight. I never understand why they immediately always tag back in the partner who's just taken an absolute beating. That never quite makes sense to me. But here, I don't mind too much because it was just absolutely awesome once Breeze got involved in the match. There was this whole bit where Eichner was in a single leg crab and Bartel swung for him. I think it was Fandango, and he sort of got he ducked and then got tumbled out of the ring. And then there was a big dive to the outside, and Eichner managed to get up and get into a Death Valley driver. And then he got up onto the turnbuckle. There was a super kick and a cheeky Nando's. And Eichner did the one-arm power bomb, but was fought off. And then Breeze was basically shoved off the top rope at this point, just into Eichner, who caught him in a suplex like it was nothing.
Oh, bloody hell, Eichner was great in this match. Like they both were. That's the thing, is like Imperium is such a, I mean, Breezango are kind of approaching kind of Young Bucks levels of tag team flair. They're not quite obviously at that level, but with their kind of their dueling super kicks and their kind of really lovely offense and just being able to kind of be everywhere at once, and all this choreography just paying off. And Imperium, we know, are some of the most fluid tag workers going. All of their kind of, especially towards the end when you just got missed leg drop, penalty kick from Martel into a kind of gut wrench German suplex, and just the finish was so well timed. These guys have got great chemistry. Not only the tag teams have great chemistry with each other, but these tag teams have great chemistry against each other as well. So it's just for a group that I don't think anyone really kind of thought oh, well, they're just here to kind of help the younger stars get over. You don't expect Breezango to be a division centerpiece, but if they keep pulling out matches like this, they really could be, as you kind of build up the division around them. The week before, they put on one of the best matches of the night, and that a brilliant 6-man tag no DQ match. And then they had match of the night here as well. It's just so great to see Breezango working at this level. It makes me so happy. And not a lot of storyline happening, and not a great idea of what the future of the tag division. You probably could argue that it wasn't as good a match as the street fight in AEW, but it's great wrestling. And just we sometimes watch it on 1.5 speed. I just slowed it down for this one because I just want to watch this match properly. Really, 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 really good. I especially love the finish. If you want to take us through the nuts and bolts of that.
Of course, yeah. So there was this big blind tag on Imperium's side, and they hit a spine buster and a running penalty kick just as that all kicked off. And then they went set up for the European bomb with Breeze on Eichner's shoulders. But Fandango jumps into the ring at this point, and he drop kicks Eichner into the back, basically pushing him and Breeze towards the turnbuckle. So Breeze, as he gets over there, just shoves Bartel off the top rope, and then rolls through with Eichner into a pin, and basically steals the match from there with this really close. So I even think that they didn't hit their finish at any point. It still felt close. Imperium still looked amazing, and that you can still continue this feud probably into TakeOver and have the sort of the final run back of this series with Imperium, and put a kind of pin in it and say this is the point now where you know,
do a 2 out of 3 falls match.
Mm.
Oh, that would be nice.
Because I think it's like Imperium got that
Yeah.
option now to just come in next week or the week after and say like, look, you guys, yeah, sure, you pinned us, but you didn't, you know, we weren't down
beat
for the
us,
count.
yeah.
You didn't actually beat us properly, did you? You snuck a pin in, and that's fine. Anyone can sneak someone down for 3 seconds, but knocking them out is what you need to do. Yeah, and there's levels here that I think they can play with, and I would, you know, from watching this match, I would love to see them do another match because I do really feel like Breezango are coming into their own as the champs now. Like, you know, they do finally feel like they've really stepped up their game to be the champions. And I wasn't necessarily with them before on that journey, just because I think some of the flip-flopping between comedy and serious doesn't always work. But I actually think here it was kind of perfectly done. They felt like a proper team. Like you said, they feel like a kind of Young Bucks light in that sense of the way in which they kind of construct their offense here. And this was one of those matches where it's kind of almost impossible to keep up, because every time someone pops down, as they pop back up, someone else has kicked them in the head, and then someone else hits that. Like it was levels of choreography here that were just immense. Really, really awesome stuff. And it was all perfectly behind the referee's back, or like just to put over how sort of sneaky but technical Imperium are, because it was always Bartel running in with this penalty kick or whatever it was, just as the referee was looking the wrong way, and you were, it was all unexpected. Great stuff. This next tag match that happened, I thought was also pretty fun. This was the team of Jesse Kamea and Zaya Lee, who have clearly just been thrown together, versus Team Ninja, i.e. Caden Carter and Casey Catanzaro.
They've got gear.
They've had gear for a little while, because it's
the first time I properly noticed it.
So they have been a tag team on house shows for a long time. Actually, they were doing the circuit together for quite a long time, and yeah, they've obviously been used in to further other people's storylines, shall we say, for a while now. In various forms, both separately and together. So it was nice to see them sort of come out here and get a win. Like, you know, it was nice to see them do something with Caden and Casey, because like they are one of the only true tag teams in NXT's women's division, like especially with the Robert Stone brand having folded in the way it has. So Aaliyah's sort of, you know, that the tenuous tag team of Aaliyah and Mercedes Martinez is no more anyway. But yeah, like, and you can tell immediately from seeing them wrestle together as well that they clearly have shared the ring loads of times doing this stuff, because they had some really cool little tag team trickery up their sleeves. There was a brilliant right at the beginning off the tag, Casey slides to the outside and trips, I'm thinking it's Zia Lee, it might have been Jesse at this time, trips her as Caden runs to the other ropes, comes back in with a drop kick, and then Casey is already in position to hit the rolling senton over the top rope. Really cool stuff. There was a tag, and they did like a sort of they did double kicks to the back of the knees and dropped them to the floor, both hit with the forearm and then with the kick. It was like everything was kind of fluid and working really well together. And I do think, yeah, they were right in saying that like Casey Catanzaro is one of the more interesting pure athletes in the NXT women's division, because she's so just gymnastic, I guess is the only word for it. But like she is so brilliant at just sort of throwing herself around the place and doing like both offensively and in taking bumps. They should have done more with her, I think, when they first got her, and I'm hoping that this leads somewhere with Casey and Caden, maybe building to maybe we'll get a women's tag title defense here on NXT, like Shayna Baszler. I know, but Shayna Baszler, like I'd love to see Shayna Baszler come back to NXT for a week, even if it is just to dismantle Caden and Casey.
No, I thought it was fun. I thought the announcers after the match kind of really put over the pinning combination, which finished the match, which I thought of all the double team moves they did was the worst one. Like they were just like, did you see that? I've never seen that pinning combination. It's just like, well, there's a crucifix pin combined with like a victory roll, but it's like whatever, a roll up sort of thing. And it was like, it's fine, but it's like as a finishing move, like Caden Carter basically just grabs their opponent and like she gets kicked so that the opponent lands on Caden. Yeah. And then she's kind of so she Samoan dropped herself And then Casey Catanzaro did a roll up over the top of it, which I just like, that to me is a bit too cute. But a lot of the other tag team offense was good. It's just, yeah, I didn't quite rate that. And I only mention it because the announced team fawned over that pinning combination so much. And it's just like, nah, it looked a bit crap. But I'm really happy for these guys as a team. I think about Casey like sort of the same way you think about Shotzi, just like future women's champ right there with that perfect underdog story. Like, just, yeah, being able to kind of like gut it out and pick up wins via smarts and, yeah, really unique athleticism. So, yeah, it's really cool to see him pick up a win.
Little post-match angle also happened in which they offered a handshake and Xia Li batted it away, walking out of the ring and leaving Jessie Kamea as well. Probably because they're not friends and they're not a tag team, but you know, whatever. See you later, Jessie. Thanks for your 1 week of service. Fine. I wonder what they'll do with Xia Li next. They like her, but they just don't. They sort of refuse to build anything with her. So it'd be interesting to see what they do, because she's had a couple of losses now, and she was on a hell of a winning streak in NXT. Maybe this is the start of everybody's heel. So why not Xia Li too? So we then saw Drake Maverick and Killian Dane backstage, had a very short chat. Dane said, "I'm not your tag team partner. I'm not coming out to help you for the match." He was speaking the truth. We then got Tegan in her gaming setup, talking to the computer, saying that Candice wouldn't, the Candice she knew wouldn't watch her friend be put through a table. She says she's going to win the Battle Royal next week. And then she addresses Io and says, this time everything will be different. Perfectly fine. A little bit of promo work.
Good chair, mate. Nice chair.
Yeah, it's a wicked chair. Yeah. I hope Tegan doesn't win the Battle Royal, because I'm not super excited to see Tegan versus Io again. And I think there are much more interesting options. But I like this kind of first collision of Candice and Tegan as characters comes in this Battle Royal. I think that's going to be really interesting and be a really nice little dynamic running, like undercurrent that runs through the match.
I hope they're the final two.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that is kind of like what pushes, where we see some real villainy from Candice. Would be nice.
Come on, Candice. Come through. We then got Undisputed Era, Roderick Strong and Bobby Fish versus Killian Dane and Drake Maverick, except it was just against Drake Maverick, because Dane does not come out during the entrance and Maverick just comes out and is like, yeah, he's going to come out. And then his little puppy dog face drops when he realizes that...
Forfeit the match, Drake. You don't have to wrestle. It's like, Christ, man. Why do you like being beaten up so much? It's fine. It's babyface. It's like, I've been booked for the match, and it would disappoint Mr. Regal if I didn't wrestle, I suppose. It's just like, come on, dude. Why do you like punishment?
Like Drake is like a kid who keeps wanting to stick his hand in the toaster, and you have to just be like, no, don't do that. Someone
this time it might be fine.
He needs a minder, is what he needs, Drake Maverick. Because he just. It's irresponsible of NXT at this point to let him keep doing this stuff. Quite frankly, he gets destroyed by the Undisputed Era, as you would imagine. It is the exact booking that you think it's going to be when you think about this match. I thought there was a really cool bit where Drake sort of fires up for a second and he goes for a running bulldog on Bobby Fish coming out the corner, and Fish just sort of scoops him as he goes and then just passes him off to Roderick Strong, who turns it into a backbreaker. Roderick Strong is amazing at putting backbreakers in where you don't expect backbreakers to be.
That's true.
Utterly unbelievable. They would cut to Dane watching the match in gorilla.
He was watching
and enjoying.
He's so great. And the fact that he didn't come out because he felt any obligation to whatsoever. He came out because his boss was giving him hassle about it.
So William Regal comes out and he says, like, are you just gonna let him be beaten up there? Your tag partner, you're just going to let this happen? He's like, oh, you want me to go out there? And Regal's sort of like, yes, I want to go out. And he's like, fine. And he goes out. And at the point that he comes out, they've chucked Maverick out of the ring and he's sort of sprawled on the ramp lying there. And Dane walks out and it feels like, whoa, the moment of victory. Something is, maybe he's going to help Maverick now that he's been told off by his boss. And instead he just picks Maverick up, puts him back in the ring and says, if you're going to take a beating, take it like a man. And then just begins to walk away.
Yeah, I helped.
And then the Undisputed Era obviously can't keep their big mouth shut, and they start calling Dane names and tell him to come down. So he gets in the ring, he chucks Roddy around, and then Fish hits him with a chair before it can really escalate, which obviously means that they've won the match. Maverick saves him from a proper chair shot by grabbing the chair and dragging it out of the ring. And then Drake pulls down the ropes as Dane chucks Roddy out. So they've worked as a team for the first time. Look at them, all synchronized and stuff. And Maverick's getting fired up, being like, yeah, we won. We did it. We're a team. We won on the technicality. And he gets so fired up that he shoves Dane. And obviously, the inevitable happens, and Killian Dane punches him in the head. This is great stuff. I love it. Like, yeah, it's like the goofier end of wrestling, but it's the right kind of goofy. Drake Maverick and Killian Dane are the perfect odd couple. They're both completely committed to it. I loved Killian Dane watching it on the screen in Gorilla and having a little laugh to himself. I liked William Regal having to get involved and be like the dad in this scenario. Undisputed Era did their jobs perfectly as well. I just, of course the Undisputed Era would call Killian Dane back into the ring by being too gobby. Like
Robbie's
everything
strong as well.
Yeah,
you fat dork. Like, you guys are jerks. And it's like,
about it.
No one had to change. No one in any way had to shift their character alignment for this story to work, which is the mark of a well-told story. Like sometimes NXT can be a little contrived. I think we felt that a little bit with Tegan and Candice. Like you just like, this doesn't quite feel like your characters. It feels like you're just kind of you've been positioned and having your alignment shifted slightly. No one's alignment shifted here. Everyone acted like the characters they've always been acting as, and it's created a unique, endearing partnership. It's great. It's really good booking, slow and steady, and you're gonna get an endearing tag team out of it.
And you know what? Like remarkable as well, because look at when the last odd couple pairing tag team that NXT did was the Broserweights, and they just went, "That's happening." That just happened. They just chucked them together, and within a month they were the tag team champions. And then they did sort of like, they played up the odd couple stuff a little bit. I didn't love it as the Broserweights, but I think here Killian Dane and Maverick are putting in the work to get this idea of them as a tag team over and making me want to see them work together. Like they could have just chucked them together. They could have started it last week, or this week it could have been a Thor. And there's not even been a remote bit of movement from Killian Dane towards being in a tag team with Drake Maverick. So Maverick is going to have really earned his respect by the time they do become this tag team, which I'm hoping is the thing that happens. But lovely stuff. I love this. Like this was like the most, I think, front to back, just the perfect bit of booking. Probably the best bit of booking that NXT's done on the show this week. It's just a really well told little story, and it's just really novel and fun.
It's sweet. It's what Maverick is. It's Drake Maverick is so good at drawing sympathy. Like he's so good at like. I completely understand why Dane wouldn't want to team with Maverick. He's very small, and it looks like he can't hold his end in a fight. But Drake Maverick just has that never say die, completely earnest. Like he's a pure baby face. Really difficult to not like him, as I'm sure Killian Dane will discover. Just like he's just he won't quit, even though he should, because he keeps getting hurt, but he won't. And it's exactly the right people with exactly the right stuff that we've already seen from them. This feeds brilliantly off the Drake Maverick versus Legado del Fantasma stuff. He won't quit, and he will earn Killian Dane's respect.
Someone should call his mum and dad and ask him to stop. But someone does need to set him on the right path. It's like you're not good at this. Tactically, you're not good at this. Right. We then saw Jake Atlas backstage. He was saying that he's come back because Ciampa's lit a fire underneath him, and then Ciampa attacks him from behind and beats him up outside. The interesting wrinkle to this, because I'm not really bothered about seeing Jake Atlas versus Tommaso Ciampa again, is that who should get involved in this little wrinkle? It was Kyle O'Reilly got between the two. And had a go at Tommaso Ciampa. Yes, please.
Kyle O'Reilly versus Tommaso Ciampa at Takeover. Dare we?
Dare we
Can we?
dream? Oh.
Ooh, that would be good. Holy moly.
I like this. I think I'm not sure if I misheard, but I'm pretty sure like at the end, Carl was like just turned to Jake after sort of staring off Ciampa, because Ciampa was like, "Fine, I'll see you next week, Jake, and I'll see you as well." Did his little wave and then wandered off, and then Carl sort of turned to Jake and was like, "Are you okay?" And Jake was like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Well, get up then." And walked off, like just wandered off. I really want to see singles Kyle O'Reilly now. I am all for it. And you know what?
I don't quite get how he's faced. Like we were just talking about how like no one's had to kind of change their alignment to make the previous match work. Kyle O'Reilly, I don't quite like. They've done a little bit of legwork with him being frustrated with the Undisputed Era like heel tactics, but I don't quite get where it's come from, considering that he was one of the most obnoxious members of the UE. I would like to hear a little bit from him, and hopefully that's something that we build up to. It's just that I mean, but he just has, like, we've just seen him work. The thing is, like, it doesn't matter to us so much because Kyle O'Reilly is a super worker, and we want to see him have long, drawn out, high profile matches with other super workers. And yeah, I just singles run Kyle O'Reilly. Yes. Sign me up for seconds.
So here's a way I think that they might be telling the story of singles run Kyle O'Reilly, because there's a match that's been announced for next week, which sounds quite novel and interesting, and is a new match for WWE NXT.
Novel. It's Aztec Warfare, but a mini version. But Aztec Warfare was also Lucha Underground's greatest match stipulation. So I'm up for it. Let's do it.
So Big Willie Riggs says that 5 deserving members of the NXT roster are going to be entered into this match. And then we see a bunch of faces flash up on the screen. We get Kyle O'Reilly, Bronson Reed, Velveteen Dream, Bobby Fish, Roderick Strong, Cameron Grimes, Santos Escobar, and Kashida. He says the rules of the match will be 2 men start. Every 4 minutes, another competitor will enter. The only way to be eliminated is pinfall or submission. Last man standing gets the challenge Finn Balor for the NXT Championship at the next takeover. What I think is interesting here is that obviously it's 5 people entering the match and they've shown 8 pictures. So likely, I wonder whether they're going to do, and like Velveteen Dream has technically been written off with injury from Kashida's assault. He was on the injury list from coming out of last week's show, I believe. So I don't think he'll be in the match necessarily. And then I wonder whether or not the Undisputed Era are going to come to blows over which one of those 3 lads is the most deserving to be in that match. That would be kind of an interesting little... I mean, this could also just be... This is me just fantasy booking, because likely what will happen is next week they'll just be like, here's the 5 guys. Oh, there was another guy. I was... what's his face? Ridge Holland was in the video as well. So yeah, I wonder if there'll be any sort of back and forth over who's going to be in it, or they're just going to announce it in the coming week of like, these are the 5 entrants who are deserving. We've decided that now. But I like the sound of the match. It sounds, obviously it is a stripped down Aztec Warfare. I like the fact that they're sort of they're going the opposite way as well from like, they said like 4 previous champions have just fought for the opportunity to be the NXT champion and they failed. 3 of them have failed. So here are a bunch of people who've never really had the opportunity. So that's also a reason I would say that Velveteen Dream probably shouldn't be in the mix here as well. But like, here's a bunch of people who haven't really had that opportunity and are deserving, who are going to face off for that chance. Yeah, I really like the idea of this match. I think NXT will do a bang-up job of doing this. And it feels like a good marquee match for them to have. Like, it feels like something to sort of hang an episode around. We've obviously also got the Women's Battle Royal, which has quite a lot of people in it. And I can't remember all of them off the top of my head. It's Xia Li, Rhea Ripley, Kacy Catanzaro, Indy Hartwell, Candice, Tegan, Shotzi.
Yeah. It's everyone. Everyone apart from Chelsea Green and Mercedes Martinez, because they quit Robert Stone and NXT.
Oh yeah, Lee, isn't it? Yeah.
I think both those matches will be good. They've both got room for lots of storytelling, lots of little mini booking things. I don't know if is Gargano's going to be is he going to be in the match? It seems weird if he's not, but then again, like maybe they won't put Gargano in the match because it was like they showed Gargano and Ciampa and Cole like during like one kind of montage, and then they showed all basically the North American title scene in another montage.
Yeah.
So it's just like, where are you getting these 5 guys from? And obviously they showed way more than 5 guys, so it's weird to think like where, you know, who's actually competing.
I think it's going to be that next level down from. I think that the kind of telling was, that they've said it's these guys have just had the opportunity, so now it's 5 more deserving people, and they'll pick from the field of the sort of next level down of NXT stars.
I think we'll see because we are talking about this is Takeover. Like these are the number 1 contenders for Takeover, and it's just like I don't know if necessarily you build a Takeover on the North American title scene being promoted to NXT champion. I don't know. It could like Kashida, you know, Kashida versus Finn Balor is that's a Takeover match. But I'd assume they'd throw in like one or like maybe. I mean, obviously Ciampa's not in it because he's fighting off Jake Atlas, but I would have thought they'd put Gargano.
Well, Ciampa did say, "I'll see you next week," to Kyle O'Reilly. So maybe Kyle O'Reilly's meant to be in the match, and Ciampa just bullies his way in.
Ooh, oh, look at you, fantasy booking.
I'm on a roll.
You have a go. Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, no, I wonder whether that will be. Yeah, I do think as much as I'd love to see any of these guys take on Finn Balor, I don't think it's something you'd advertise a takeover around necessarily. Not even Kashida versus Finn Balor, because Kashida hasn't been on NXT TV enough recently to be like, here's the main event of our takeover. So yeah, I do wonder if they'll do something more dream matchy in that sense for this first one of Finn's title defenses.
Think Ciampa?
I don't. It's hard, isn't it? Because if it was Ciampa,
you want the feud with Ciampa, don't you? Like Ciampa's like somewhere you want like a proper like 2 months feud of horrible psychological torment. Whereas you've got what, 2 weeks? You got no. After that, you've got one takeover. Yeah. No, you got one NXT to build to take over after the match next week. So yeah, if it were me, I'd give it to Gargano.
Yeah, I know. I do think Gargano is probably the smartest choice here, just because you've got an insta feud built basically. You just have to do a video package that goes, do you remember all this stuff between the two of them from a while ago? And then people would be like, oh yeah, you remember Finn Balor it was Johnny that Finn kicked in the head when he turned heel. Like, you know, there's plenty there to build it off of, and that's a really smart way. But people I would love to see from the images they showed is Kashida, Kyle O'Reilly, and Santos Escobar. I would love to see either of those 3 go up against Finn Balor for the title. That would be so good. Let's talk about the main event quickly. We had Damian Priest versus Timothy Thatcher for the North American Championship. Brilliant match. Yeah. Absolutely, really well done by both of them.
God, Priest's good. He gets better every week. He's really, really good. And Thatcher's a really good foil for him as well.
Yeah, I love the you know, we were sort of fantasizing last week and saying, like, when Thatcher was watching those tapes back of Priest stuff, is Thatcher going to have an answer for everything Priest could do? And it felt here that, Thatcher was just sort of on this ruthless path of every single opportunity I get, I'm going to go for a Fujiwara armbar. And it doesn't matter what else you're doing, because you slip for a second and I'm just going to be like, boom, you're on the mat. I'm going for your arm. And it really, like, they quite subtly sort of sold in this idea that Priest sort of clocked his forearm on Thatcher's head at one point, and he had to get out of the ring and shake it off for a bit. And that just became the target for Thatcher's like oppressive offense of, I'm just going to wear you down until the point that I lock this in fully. And Priest did such a brilliant job of fighting him off. The most impressive thing I thought, and the commentators did put this over as well, was Priest getting out of a Fujiwara armbar that was in the center of the ring just by putting his foot on the rope from the center of the ring.
Yeah, he's a long boy.
He just went, whoop, bump. You can't pin Mr. Tickle.
Oh, Jesus Christ. What one image. I really, really, really like the fact that last week Timothy Thatcher said, look at that springboard cannonball. Look how dumb that is. And then Priest tried to hit it and Thatcher just moved out of the way and then immediately went to kind of lock it in. It's great. that's NXT booking like that. That's really, really good. It
Yeah,
makes
and
watching all the mid-match, all the between-match segments worth it because they pay off.
Yeah, it was a perfect first event for Damian Priest. It made him look $1 million. Thatcher doesn't lose anything, I don't think, in losing this match. I think Thatcher got across the idea that he is, as Wade Barrett put it, a human torture device, which I just think that's what they should call him from now on. I think it's brilliant. Yeah, he's so good, and I do love the clash of styles here. Actually worked brilliantly, and they just made a really, really good match. Essentially, Priest manages to hit a reckoning in the center of the ring and picks up the victory and gets the big sort of the celebration with the full graphics and everything to close out the show. Lovely stuff. I wonder whether he will be champion come the end of Takeover, though, if he's had such he's gone straight into like quite a big big defense first thing to sort of put that over. I feel like if they do that in the sort of 1 week after he's just won the belt, a big event, like you kind of then it might be that he's only for having a short time with the title, or they're just trying to get like a couple under it. Like maybe he'll win at Takeover and then lose it at the next one because they're just trying to get a few defenses under his belt before they take it off him.
Who knows? They do loads of title defenses on NXT TV now. That's just part and parcel of them being on USA and up against AEW. Like the amount of title defenses has skyrocketed, which they didn't need to do it on when NXT was unopposed elsewhere. So I don't know if necessarily that is kind of like a booking strategy because they're going to take it off him soon. I just think that is just how NXT programs now. It's more bombast than the NXT of old.
Yeah, overall, like a fun, really like wrestling heavy, brilliant wrestling heavy episode of NXT. They didn't, it feels a little bit like it is building to next week as ever, in the sense that like next week is the really big match. Next week is the women's battle royal, and it's the gauntlet match as well next week, the gauntlet eliminator or whatever it's called. That's all going to be really, really exciting. And then, after that, we've got a week and then there's a takeover. So
I really want them to call it Aztec War Games. I'm really looking forward to next week. I like watching NXT, man. It depresses me slightly to hear people like Chris Jericho say it's embarrassing for NXT because they put on really quality content. But yeah, maybe this. If you watch this on a Tuesday night, just like a night of good wrestling, you'd be like no complaints.
Exactly.
It's not the most bombastic episode we've ever seen. It was difficult to come up with a topic to talk about. That's why we talked about Chris Jericho so much. But it's good. It's really, really functional, good wrestling. And a pleasure to watch it every week.
Absolutely. And yeah, I'm very excited for next week. I think next week will do wonders for NXT. I'm kind of with Chris Jericho and I want them to move to Tuesday. So do that, NXT. Well, that is all we've got time for, talking about NXT and also Chris Jericho, funnily enough. So please get the videos that have appeared on screen now to watch more awesome WrestleTalk things. There'll be a button on there somewhere as well that will make you a pledge hammer on Patreon, which gets you loads of extra content and also access to Wrestle League. I'll talk about that in a second I'll talk about it now, shall I?
Yeah,
You're gonna leave it. Also, there's a link in the description down below that will make you that will take you to Phenomeners, which is going to be our new board games channel that will start in the first week of October. Please go over there and subscribe. Make Adam's week. It was his birthday recently, so if you didn't get him a present, this could be his present for that. And we won't even be mad at you for it being late. So just head over to Phenomeners and do that. And yeah, really make our day. I've been Elfagador Laurie Blake. That's been Adam Blompier. Subscribe to Phenomenerds.
Yay!
That was NXT. I literally ran out of voice at that exact moment. That was